Okay, so today I'm going to start off what I guess is going to be a small series on some practical guitar tips, working with things like modifying this Jazzmaster, which as you can see is not stock. I'm going to be also modifying and repairing some other guitars, and I'm going to be doing a review series on a cheap Stephen Carpenter signature that I bought off of a Chinese site. It's a Chinese copy, and for very little money you can well, if you're careful, you can buy a guitar which you can then mod into something a lot more impressive, and I'm going to be doing a short series on that and how I get on with that, as well as obviously doing first impressions before we get on to actually modifying it. But first, I thought I would go through some pedals I have lying around the house that are quite interesting. The main board is in the practice space. Maybe one day I'll go over some of that stuff, but for now it's just some pedals I've got lying around. The first and most interesting of which, really in my opinion, is a pedal called the Terminal, which is a fuzz pedal. My friend Johnny, I'll post a link so you can, he doesn't have a website or anything, but you can find him on Twitter. My friend Johnny built, which is essentially a germanium fuzz, in the vein of sort of a classic Big Muff, but with some extra controls, which you would find on more kind of boutique fuzz devices. And I suppose actually in itself this is a boutique fuzz device. I'm using quite a low output pickup. I'm going to be switching this out for a Creamery wide range 71. For the moment it's a stock crafted in Japan Jazzmaster, which means that these pickups are not, they're actually more, they're not classic Jazzmaster type pickups, they're more in line with what you might find on the Stratocaster, say. So they are lower output, and you can hear it in the fuzz tone. I might have to switch guitars and show you what it sounds like with a higher output pickup in order to give you the full idea. But yeah, so it's essentially a germanium fuzz with a number of interesting little mods. So I'll just show you what it sounds like with the Jazzmaster. So I mean, it is very saturated, and I've got it almost the whole way around, so it's quite hard to think of playing anything but chords doing that. And yeah, when you roll off the fuzz, you can quite quickly get that sort of classic distortion tone that a lot of people, really enjoy. Where it's just a little bit of fuzz, just kind of breaking up the amp. I'm going to Hughes & Kettner Anniversary 20 valve amp here. I don't want to kill the neighbours, it's not up especially loud, but you can kind of, even at this volume level, sort of hear how it's reacting to the fuzz. So personally, I mean, I prefer higher saturation fuzz sounds. There's a switch I'm about to flick. I'll show a photo of it, called the pseudo switch, which is a programming joke if anybody gets it, which is essentially adding in a lot more distortion. Think of it that way. And with it disengaged, with much more, again, going from a kind of older school muff sound to a modern muff sound. So the older school one, even back the fuzz all the way around, you'll find it's not hugely saturated. There's not like loads of distortion on offer, but it's very nice, especially through a much bigger amp than this at volume. You can definitely hear it kind of really pushing the tubes and stuff. It's a really nice sound, but I always pretty much have it in the sort of super distortion setting. Where it differs as well from a regular Big Muff is the tone scoop control kind of thing. So you can obviously have, you can push it up a bit more. So you get those boosts, or how I have it, which is more kind of the vacuum kind of Big Muff sound that you might be more used to, and you'll also find that the neat feature of this, I suppose, there's a separate mids control as well. So tone does exactly what you think. The mids means you can kind of push the mids up a bit, or you can scoop them like I was talking about. That's how I've got both those controllers interacting to give you that kind of vacuum big muff sound, where it is a bit like thicker and fuzzier. And I'm going to switch guitars so that you get some higher gain sounds. This will be completely seamless. So you can hear from that, you can really get, especially when you've got kind of like a high output humbucker on the go, you can get pretty viable sort of lead tones, or, I mean, again, it really does suit chord work the best, I suppose. But you can get, you know, if you're playing something a bit more kind of... You really do get like a real twang and resonance when as soon as you move up the fretboard. It's a lot more kind of, not quite as Velcro-y maybe as a ZVEX pedal, or one of the old school kind of germanium Zoom ones maybe. I've got one of those knocking around here somewhere. Or, you know, equally anything like the green carrot pedals and stuff that you might hear, you know, on like Van Art records or whatever. But it, you know, it's got just enough that kind of Velcro-y attack that you can definitely kind of pick out your leads a little bit more confidently and aggressively using it than perhaps like a traditional big muff, and especially maybe a darker voice one like a Russian big muff. And the fine thing as well about this pedal, which is cool, is that it's got a noise gate on it, which is pretty much essential. You can kind of hear that I'm sort of letting the guitar ring out, it's not going crazy. Big muffs, obviously, amazing pedals, but you know, really, really chaotic to use in a lot of situations with that, unless you've got a dedicated noise gate after them. So, you know, like using pedals with kind of heavy metal type distortion, fuzzes also quite often benefit from having a noise gate somewhere in the chain, and if they have a built-in noise gate, then all the better. So yeah, anyway, that's my video about the Superstar Destroy Devices Terminal by Johnny Dark, and yeah, if you've got any questions about it, then put them in the comments. But I might do another slightly more serious video about this at some point, but I just want to do something quick for now to get the ball rolling. And more videos to come, obviously, on the 7-string fun and various other pedals that we've got knocking around here. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you're interested in watching more of these, then obviously do subscribe. I promise there'll be more guitar playing in the next one. And yeah, cheers.